Hello, gentlemen. I have a question. We recently bought a pit bull puppy, and we went to renew our homeowners, and I mentioned this to our agent, and he dropped our coverage. He's a really sweet dog. He's never been abused or anything like that, and now we're having trouble finding a carrier. Is this right or possible?
Well, great question. Is it right or possible? It's happening because insurance companies, you know what they really like to do? They like to take your premiums and never pay. You know, it doesn't always work that way, but that's the perfect world. But yeah, the more risky something gets, so we know this. We know if you live in a very low piece of land by the water, your flood insurance is going to be higher. We know that if you lived on Pensacola Beach, your hurricane insurance is going to be much higher than if you live in Cantonment or Molino. So we know those type of things. So it's all about risk. And so certain breeds of dogs are certainly causing them concern. So if you mention like a pit bull, that's going to concern them because that breed causes a lot more dog bites than maybe Chihuahuas or Poodles. But they do have a right to cancel you, just like if you have a teenage driver and they cause 2 or 3 car wrecks, your insurance company can cancel you if they now think that you are a high risk to them. So we're starting to see that more and more where either insurance companies are excluding a liability for animal, they call it animal liability. It's not just dog bites, it's animal liability. And the other thing that they do, they may cap, if you got a $300,000 homeowners, they may say, well, we'll only pay up to $25,000 for animal liability. And while we're on this topic, I have a good friend of mine, very dear friend of mine, that had an animal liability case, but he didn't sue his own dog. This guy got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and tripped over his dog and broke his neck. Do you know anything about that, Charlie?
Yeah, I know something about that. And no, you can't sue the dog. But it's when you're talking about animal liability, I, in fact, had my homeowners canceled because I had horses. But you're right. To a large degree, some insurance companies are excluding animals. Some of them are only excluding certain dogs like pit bulls and Rottweilers and things of that nature. So there's ways you can get around it. It's possible to buy insurance policies, I believe, just for the animal liability. You can go to a pit bull group and you might be able to get insurance coverage. But it's since in Florida, if a dog bites somebody, it's strict liability. Insurance companies are just trying to figure out a way to get off the hook. So,
or to limit their liability.
Yep.
And you're seeing it like, it's some you laugh at because we see terrorism coverage. I don't really have any heartburn when they exclude me from terrorism coverage. Then we see the sinkholes problems. And, of course, we don't have sinkholes much up here in the Panhandle. Apparently, there's a lot of sinkholes in mid-Florida. There's been a lot of problems down there. But so they want to sell insurance with the hope that it'll never be used. And that way they make profits. There's always someone that'll take you. So if you got canceled because of your puppy, there is somebody that will insure you. There's always another carrier that will step up. And Charlie had a neat idea. I guess you could. Is that what you did with your horses? Did you get separate liability for your horses, or what did you do with that?
Actually, what I did is I got releases for everybody that came around to play with them.
Right.
So I didn't get separate horse liability.
All right. So, those things go on, but we see it time and time again. Another thing Charlie didn't mention, or we talked earlier about reviewing policies, ever since Ivan, I've become an expert on reading homeowners policies. I love reading homeowners policies because I had to read mine, and I never really looked at my own. I was like anybody else before Ivan. I'd had some small storms. Opal, I didn't have much damage, but we were devastated at our house after after Ivan, and I was flabbergasted that with all the coverage I had, I was amazed at the loopholes over there. They wouldn't pay this, wouldn't pay that, and so forth. And so we know a lot of tricks how to have full coverage on your home, but also reduce your rates. There's many things that the agents get wrong. I'll give you a couple of tips since we have time. There's no callers. Here's just a couple of tips. If you have a home that has not been inspected in the past 10 years, there's contractors out there for a very cheap fee, usually around $150, that will inspect your home for hurricane purposes. I think they call it a 4-point inspection, and they'll inspect your house, and if you've got the tie downs and you got this and that and the other, it could reduce your homeowner's premium by hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a year for that one inspection. Also, a lot of times when you first got your house, maybe you went to your agent, maybe there was a young secretary there, and she may have filled some forms in, and you didn't have any input. And it makes a big difference. So when I switched insurance agents, one of the agents asked me, where is the nearest fire hydrant in your neighborhood? I said, what's my front yard? I've hated it for years. I hate having that fire hydrant. And he says, well, you may hate it, but your premium's lower. They marked it wasn't there, so you just saved yourself $200 a year because the fire hydrant is in your front yard. Really? Didn't know that. They asked, where's the closest fire station? That says 12 miles. I said, no, there's one down the road about 3 miles. That lowered my premium. So there's all these little things that somebody had arbitrarily filled in. I never filled them in, and somebody just plugged them in at the time. And by the time we did all that, my coverage was a lot less.